On the highest hill of Troy Village, there is a house whose windows are never opened. For the past 12 years, it has stood there, silent as a giant stone tomb. No one goes out, no one comes in, except for a small girl, skinny, with long hair that seems to be pulled by the wind, holding a rattan basket in her arms, and a pair of eyes that always look straight ahead, as if afraid that if she turns around, she will see something following her. That house is where I have lived all my life, a cold, silent house, as if time itself did not dare to touch it. The walls were covered with old tattered paper that peeled off as if someone had peeled it off in the middle of the night. Every door in the house was double locked. Every window was covered with wood and black cloth. No light was allowed in, not a single ray. We lived in darkness and learned to listen for sounds instead of seeing things. It is rumored that the house is haunted, but that is not true. It's not haunted, it's a ghost. I live with my sister Elna and my grandmother. My sister is 8 years older than me and is the only one in the house who is allowed to have a key. Every morning, she prepares the food, checks the doors, writes a shopping list, and hands it to me. I was the only one allowed out for 2 hours only, and only on Thursday mornings. I had to go straight down to the village market, without stopping, without talking, without looking at anyone. If they look at you too long, Elna instructed, keep your head down, for their eyes carry fire. I didn't understand what that meant, but I did it anyway because my sister was never wrong. The villagers were afraid of us. They didn't say it out loud, but they whispered as I passed. I heard it. I always heard it. That family burned people. That girl, she talked to the dead. I swear I saw a hand waving from the third-floor window, even though it had been closed for 10 years. I pretended not to hear. I had to. If I reacted, they would call the police. And the police were never invited to Troy Hill. I once asked Elna, why don't we ever open the windows? She was silent for a long time. Her eyes, always dark, were empty, as if looking through me into something further, deeper, something I was not allowed to see. Finally, she said, because if you open it, whatever is outside will look in, and if it sees you, it won't leave. Ever. I didn't believe it, until one night, I couldn't sleep at that moment. The clock had just struck 12. I heard something, scratching lightly on the third-floor window, like fingernails tapping on glass, each sound slow, patient, as if it knew I was listening, and it was waiting for me to come closer. I stepped out of bed, barefoot on the cold wooden floor. My heart pounded in my chest. The house was dark, save for the wind whistling outside and the scratching that continued. Steady, slow, and persistent. I walked down the hall. Grandma's room was at the end. The door was ajar. The light from inside cast a pale streak like dried blood. I swear, I saw a shadow standing in your room. It wasn't you, nor was it Elna. And then I heard a voice. I don't know if it was from inside my head or from the wall. Open the window. I've waited long enough. Every village has stories that no one dares to tell in the daylight. In Troy, that story begins with the house on the hill and ends with a fire that burns down an entire family. At the foot of the hill, in an old tea house with a half-collapsing thatched roof, the villagers gather every Sunday morning. They sit around the fire, sip ginger tea, and tell stories, but only when the children are not around. Someone said, that night I saw fire bursting from the attic, accompanied by a piercing scream that still haunts me in my dreams. Others shook their heads. It wasn't fire, it was something crawling out from inside. Something that had no eyes, but was still staring at me. No one knew what the truth was. The police came to investigate, but the conclusion was vague. Accident caused by gas leak. A neat excuse to close the case. But everyone knew something was wrong. The whole family died, except for 3 people. My grandmother, Elna, and me, who was 4 years old at the time. Once I overheard an old woman in the village whisper, "The little girl, she was the cause." I heard that night she stood in the corner of the room expressionless, staring straight into the fire without blinking. I don't remember what happened. All my memories before I was 6 are a black void. Only one image occasionally flashes through my dreams. A woman in a black dress, long hair covering her face, standing by the window, whispering something in a language I don't understand. Since the fire, the house has been off limits. No one goes up the hill. No one visits, but no one dares come too close. It is said that every full moon night, if you stand at the foot of the hill, you will hear someone knocking on the window. 3 slow taps, then silence, then 3 more taps. As a signal, if you hear that voice, don't answer it, said Elna, because it's not human. I began to hear them more often, first from the 3rd floor window, then right outside my room. Every night, when the clock struck 12, the knocking began again. Regular, gentle, almost polite. I tried telling Elna. She didn't respond. She just looked at me, her eyes no longer those of a sister, but of a guardian. Older, more tired, and desperate. You are not to open the door, no matter what. One day, when I returned from the market, I found the wooden gate in front of my house ajar. That had never happened before. I walked over and pushed gently. Inside the yard there were strange footprints. Not mine, not Elna, and worse. I found under the steps a piece of paper stuffed under the door. I bent down and opened it. The words were scrawled, the ink red as blood. "I'm family. I'll be up next week. Don't lock the door." No name, no address. There is just one small line added on the back. I know the secret of that night, and I know who opened the window. There are doors that are closed not to keep people out, but to keep something inside. But if someone opens it once, will it ever close again? I hid the strange piece of paper in my pocket. My heart was pounding. It said, "I am a relative," but I had no relatives. There was no one left but the 3 of us. At least, that was what I had always been taught to believe. When I opened the door to the house, Elna was standing in the middle of the living room, facing the wall as if whispering to itself. I had never seen her like this before. Motionless, thin, her hair disheveled like an unembalmed corpse. I said, "Sister." Elna turned back, very slowly. "Is anyone following you?" I shook my head. "No, but there is this." I pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to her. She didn't take it, just looked at it. Her eyes were cloudy, but I felt like they were burning. Elna said softly, "We are running out of time." That night I couldn't sleep. I heard a knock. No longer the gentle 3 taps of the past. 4 taps this time, then 2 taps. Then 4 taps like some signal changing. Then something worse. Footsteps in the attic. Creaking. Long, heavy steps, as if someone was going around in circles and couldn't find the way down. I opened my eyes and saw someone standing outside my door. "Don't tap. Don't move. Just stand still." I hid under the covers. It felt like I was being seen through every layer of fabric. My breathing was labored, the air was thick, smelling musty and acrid like ash. The next morning, Elna woke me up early. "Get ready, that person will come today." She didn't answer. She took a small wooden box from the floor. I'd never seen it before. Inside was a tattered old photograph of a man in a black coat standing in front of this house, but the window behind him was wide open. "Who is he?" I asked. Elma replied, her voice like the wind whistling through the crack in the door. "The one who opened the window the first time, and the one who died, at least should have died." That evening as the sun was about to set, the wooden gate creaked open. A man stood there, hunched over, his long coat reaching to his heels, carrying an old suitcase. His face was hidden in shadow, but his voice was as clear as a knife cutting cloth. And it's been so long. I felt goosebumps rise all over my body as he looked at me. His eyes had no whites, just a dull, ashen gray. Like ashes after a fire. Elna said nothing. She turned her back, signaling me to go inside. The man entered the house. I came back for a promise and an unpaid debt. Do you still keep it? Elna nodded, her eyes never leaving him. What? I asked, keep what? No one answered me. But I felt clearly, from the moment he entered, the house began to change. The ticking of the clock disappeared. The air became thick, as if someone were breathing with us. The paper on the walls was peeling away, revealing lines of writing written with fingernails. And in the darkness, I heard my grandmother's voice, who had not spoken for many years, ring out for the first time. He's back. He brought it with him. A promise made in blood cannot be erased by time. It only waits to be reclaimed in its own way. The man sat in the living room, not saying anything for 2 hours. Not drinking, not blinking, not breathing. At least I couldn't see his chest rise and fall. Elna stood by the window, clutching the curtains until her knuckles were white. He's not human anymore, you know, Grandma whispered from the darkness. But we invited him in. In the middle of the night, I was startled awake by the sound of a piano coming from downstairs. The piano was old, the keys sounding as if someone had played them with fingernails. Long, sharp, and cold. I tiptoed down, taking each shaky wooden step. The living room was empty. Only the piano changed keys automatically. The lid opened, and I saw something that made my blood run cold. On the piano keys, there were deep fingernail marks, as if scratched with great force. Elna was standing behind me, she said, her voice dry. You hear the song? I nodded. That's the song Mom played. The night before, the house burned down. That sentence made the air freeze. Then I looked up at the wall. The family photo that had hung there, the only one that had survived the fire, was different now. In the photo, instead of 3 people, I saw a blurry figure standing behind Elna. Its face was unclear, just a black blur, but its eyes glowed red like burning coals. I screamed. Elna pulled me running. He's opening his memory. He needs me to remember, but I can't let him see the real image. We entered my grandmother's room. She was standing straight, her back no longer bent, her eyes shining as if she had never aged. She looked at me and said in a strange voice, youthful but sharp as a knife, "The debt is the soul. The promise is blood. He returned to fulfill it, and tonight he will try knocking on the door once more." Just then, there was a knock, not from the window, from inside the wooden cabinet under the stairs. 3 knocks, then silence, then 3 more, but this time, a soft voice spoke with each knock. "I miss you. I'm cold. Open it." The cupboard under the stairs was ajar. A musty smell rose up like a mummy with its lid turned upside down. I couldn't see anyone inside, just a scorched dress, a skull-crushed doll, and a scribble taped to the wooden wall. The painting shows 3 people staring at an open window. Behind them is a large shadow with sickle-like fingernails. In the bottom corner are the words, "That night I saw." I stepped back, my hands shaking. "Sister, that night, what did I really see?" Elna stood behind, her eyes red. "I saw, but I chose to forget." Then she pointed to the second-floor window, the one that was never opened. We locked it, not to keep anything out, but to keep the truth out. Night fell. The whole family seemed to hold their breath. The man was no longer in the living room. No one saw him go out. No one heard his footsteps. But the living room door was still wide open, and the smell of burning ashes began to spread throughout the floors. I dream again. In my dream, I stood in the middle of a charred room. My mother lying motionless on the floor. My father screaming at the open window. Elna stood in the corner, hiding something behind her back. I, the child I was, stood next to the wooden cabinet, my hand on the window latch. I opened it. Not Elma, not Dad. It's me. I woke up, cold all over. You remember, don't you? Elna whispered, her voice no longer trembling. He knows you remember, and he's coming. Grandma entered the room, holding a silver knife, rusty and with half the blade broken. She put it on the floor and looked straight into my eyes. The truth is back, now it's time to choose a replacement. I stepped back. My heart stopped beating. Replace what? He cannot leave here alone. Someone must take his place. And the one who opens the door must be chosen. The clock chimes 3 times. The wooden cabinet door flew open. The man stepped out. His clothes burned to a crisp, his hair matted like ash, and his eyes gone just deep sockets, oozing black sap. He looked at me, not angry, not regretful, just very sad. I promised to keep the door closed, but I forgot my promise. Elna rushed forward, blocking me. If you need a replacement, it's me. The man was silent. The grandmother jumped to her feet, screaming in a language that was not human, and lit the silver chain that held the key. The house shook. The walls groaned as if 100 souls were being torn from within. The second-story windows were open. The wind lifted the curtains like waving arms. A piercing scream rang out. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, Elna was gone. The man was gone too. The black key shattered into ashes. It was just me, Grandma, and the closet door was closed. She put her hand on my shoulder. From now on, you have to be the one to God. And I know, the old promise never dies. It is only passed on from one blood to another. Not all doors need to be opened. Some doors just need to be closed. Forever. Since Elna disappeared, the house has been filled with a strange silence. No more footsteps in the middle of the night. No more distant sounds of music. No more knocking on the wooden cabinets. Just me and Grandma. And something is waiting behind that cupboard door. Early one morning, she called me over and placed in my hand a silver key, cold as if it had just been fished out of the ground. Elna has been the doorkeeper for 3 years. Now it's your turn. I looked at her confused. But I don't understand. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anyone coming back. She just nodded slightly. That's why you are the one who can end it all. That evening I heard calling from the ground floor again. It was unclear if it was Elna or someone else, just a whisper very close. The door is about to open. I need someone to remember everything. I woke up in the dark. The key in my hand glowed by itself, the silver light seeping between my fingers as if it had life. I know, it's time. I walked downstairs. The wind blew back from the wooden cabinet, carrying with it the smell of burning, ash, and half-burnt human hair. The cupboard is wide open. No need to touch. I stepped closer, my hand clasping the key. The darkness inside was not empty, but breathing. A smoky shadow, a shapeless yet familiar shape, appeared. It looked at me. It had no eyes, but I could still feel its gaze, piercing my skin. Do you want to change it? No, I came to finish. The wind howled. The walls cracked. The lights flickered. The tables and chairs were knocked over. The house came to life like an angry beast. But I don't back down. Just then, Elna appeared. She stepped out of the darkness, still the same Elna, white dress, loose hair, face sad to the point of being terrifying. You don't need to replace me. You just need to remember and choose. I stopped. Amidst the chaos, I realized the thing in the closet isn't a demon. It's not a ghost. It's the memories of my family, the secrets, the sins, the fears, and everything we tried to bury. Elna opened it and was drawn in, but I was different. I understood what it was. I held up the key, looking straight into the darkness. I'm not afraid of you. I remember everything. I face it, and I closed the door. The key turned. There was a click. Silence. The whole house stopped moving. Grandma stood on the stairs smiling, but she looked younger now, like the woman in the old photos I had seen. Finally, someone dares not to run away. Elna took my hand, tearful. "Thank you, the door is closed, and we are..." I walked out into the yard. The sun is rising. The plum tree that had been burned black years ago was now blooming white. The wind blew gently, no longer carrying the burnt smell. I turned to look, but the house was gone. There was only an empty ground left, and the silver key in my hand was disintegrating into bright dust. The villagers said that a girl used to live in the old house at the bottom of the hill. No one knew where she went, nor did anyone remember exactly where the house was. Only sometimes, on rainy nights, do people hear a light tapping sound under their floor. I'm not asking you to open the door. I just want you to remember, because memories don't need to be kept with fear, but with facing